TikTok says you need $200,000 by age 35, but the real U.S. median net worth at 35 is only $135,600. That's not failure. It's Federal Reserve data from 2022. And after rent, inflation, and helping family, most people have far less left over than any influencer says. For years, we've been sold a highlight reel of financial success that doesn't match the reality on the ground for millions of Americans. In this video, we are going to dismantle those myths with official, hard data and give you a realistic framework to measure your own progress, understand the hidden pressures working against you, and take back control of your financial confidence. First, let's set the record straight with real numbers, age by age. The conversation around net worth has become a source of immense anxiety, driven by perfectly curated social media posts and aggressive financial gurus. They throw out big, round numbers: $100,000 by age 30, $250,000 by 35, a millionaire by 40. These benchmarks are often presented as the minimum standard for success. But what does the official data, the data that tracks millions of actual American households, really say? According to the most recent survey of consumer finances from the U.S. Federal Reserve, released in late 2022, the reality is starkly different. For households with a head under the age of 35, the median net worth is not $100,000 or more. It's $39,000. Let that sink in. Not a six-figure sum, but $39,000. This single number is one of the most powerful tools you have to reclaim your financial sanity. It tells you that the story being sold online is a fantasy for the vast majority. Let's move up the age ladder. For the 35 to 44 age bracket, where influencers are demanding you have $200,000 or even $300,000, the actual median net worth is $135,600. Again, this is according to the Federal Reserve. This is a significant jump from the under 35 group, showing that wealth does build during these crucial career years. But it's nowhere near the levels that create so much pressure. So when you see a video claiming you're behind for not having $250,000 by your late 30s, you can now confidently say that claim is not based on the typical American experience. It's based on an outlier ideal that ignores the economic realities for most people. The gap between the myth and the reality is enormous. The influencer benchmark of $200,000 by 35 is nearly 50% higher than the actual median of $135,600 for that entire age bracket. And for those under 35, the common $100,000 goal is more than 150% higher than the real median of $39,000. Seeing these numbers side by side isn't meant to lower your ambition. It's meant to ground your expectations in reality so you can build a sustainable plan without the crushing weight of impossible standards. Now, a critical point you have to understand is the difference between average and median. Media headlines and financial influencers love to use the word average because it produces bigger, more dramatic numbers. But average is incredibly misleading when it comes to money. Let me explain with a simple example. Imagine 10 people are in a room. 9 of them have a net worth of $50,000 each. The 10th person is Jeff Bezos, with a net worth of, say, $200 billion. The average net worth in that room would be about $20 billion per person. If you were one of the 9 people and heard that the average person in the room was a multi-billionaire, you'd feel like a complete failure. But that average number tells you absolutely nothing about the financial reality of almost everyone in that room. The median number, on the other hand, is the person exactly in the middle if you lined everyone up by wealth. In our example, the median net worth would be $50,000. That is the number that tells the true story of the typical person. The Federal Reserve uses the median for this exact reason. It filters out the extreme wealth of the top 1% and gives us a much more honest picture of the financial health of the everyday American household. So, whenever you hear an average net worth figure, you should immediately be skeptical. The median is where the truth lies for most of us. To put these net worth figures into a more relatable context, let's look at them as a multiple of income. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's 2024 data, the median household income in the United States is about $83,730 per year. If we take the median net worth for the 35 to 44 age group, which is $135,600, and divide it by that median income, we get a multiple of about 1.6. This means that the typical household in this age bracket has accumulated a net worth that is equal to about 1.6 years of their annual income. This is a powerful and much more useful benchmark. Instead of chasing an arbitrary number like $200,000, you can ask yourself a more grounded question. Is my net worth approaching 1 to 2 times my annual household income as I move through my 30s and into my 40s? This reframes the goal from a vague, intimidating target into a tangible metric directly related to your own earning power. It's personal, it's scalable, and it's based on reality, not on clicks. Finally, and this is the most important takeaway from this section, there should be zero shame in being at or below these median benchmarks. The very definition of median is that half of the population has less than that amount and half has more. So if you are under 35 and your net worth is $30,000, you are not a failure. You are incredibly close to the national midpoint. If your net worth is $45,000, you are already ahead of more than half of your peers. The constant feeling of being behind is an artificial stress created by a media ecosystem that profits from your anxiety. By understanding that half of the country is on the same journey with similar numbers, you can let go of that shame and replace it with a clear-eyed assessment of where you actually are. This allows you to stop comparing and start building from a place of confidence, not fear. Let's make this real with a story. Meet Jessica. She's 29 years old, a dedicated nurse working in the New York City metro area. Her annual salary is $78,000, a good income, but in one of the most expensive regions in the country. Let's look at where her money goes. Her rent, food, and utilities alone come to $39,000 a year. On top of that, she's diligently paying down her student loans, which costs her another $15,000 every year. And like many people, she has family obligations. She helps her younger brother with bills from time to time, adding up to about $1,500 a year. After all of that, she has managed to build her savings and investments to a total of $60,000. By any objective measure, this is a fantastic achievement. But Jessica doesn't feel that way. She scrolls through social media and sees personal finance influencers declaring that everyone should have a $100,000 net worth by age 30. She's a year away from 30. And she's $40,000 short of that mark. The feeling is crushing. She feels like she's failing, despite working long hours in a demanding job and being responsible with her money. This is where the data becomes a lifeline. One evening, instead of scrolling through TikTok, she dives into the actual Federal Reserve data. She sees the number. The median net worth for Americans under 35 is $39,000. Suddenly, her perspective shatters and then reforms. Her $60,000 net worth isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign that she is significantly ahead of the national median for her age group. She's not just surviving, she's thriving, especially when you factor in her high cost of living, her aggressive student loan repayments, and her support for her family. That night, the anxiety that had been a constant weight on her shoulders for months finally lifts. It's replaced by a surge of earned confidence. She realizes the benchmarks she was chasing were fake. Her progress is real. From that point on, she stops measuring herself against a false standard and redoubles her focus on her own personal savings plan, celebrating her own milestones with pride. But what do these numbers really leave out? Hang on, as next we'll uncover the hidden pressures barely anyone mentions. Drop a comment if these numbers surprised you or don't match what you've heard online. Second, let's factor in the invisible drains, the costs you rarely see in those simplified benchmark charts. The net worth numbers from the Federal Reserve give us a crucial reality check, but they don't tell the whole story. They tell us what people have, but they don't always explain why it's so hard to accumulate more. Three powerful, often invisible forces are constantly working against your savings: inflation, the high cost of living, and the financial drag from family obligations. Let's start with inflation. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the annual inflation rate as of December 2024 was 2.9%. This might not sound like a huge number, but it's a relentless, silent tax on your money. Every dollar you have in a low-interest checking or savings account is losing purchasing power every single day. For example, if you have $20,000 saved for an emergency fund, sitting in a traditional bank account earning virtually zero interest, after just 1 year of 2.9% inflation, that money can only buy what $19,420 could have bought the year before. You've lost $580 in real value without spending a dime. When financial advice simply says save more money, it often fails to mention that saving isn't enough. Your money has to be growing at a rate that at least matches and hopefully beats the rate of inflation. Otherwise, you're running on a financial treadmill, working hard just to stay in the same place. Next is the staggering cost of living, particularly for those in major U.S. cities. The advice to just save 20% of your income sounds great in the spreadsheet, but often falls apart in the real world. Based on data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and local rent reports in 2024, the basic cost of living for a single person in a major metro area can easily range from $2,500 to $5,000 per month. Let's break that down. A median earner might take home about $4,500 a month after taxes. If their rent is $2,200, their groceries are $500, utilities are $200, and transportation is $300. That's $3,200 gone before they've paid for health care, student loans, or had any kind of social life. They might only have a few $100s left at the end of the month. This isn't a failure of budgeting. It's the mathematical reality of modern urban life. The gap between wages and essential costs has grown so wide that for many, the savable income is a tiny fraction of their gross pay. These net worth benchmarks you see online are almost always created in a vacuum, completely detached from the reality of a $2,500 rent check for a one-bedroom apartment. Now let's talk about one of the most important and least discussed factors: family. Financial independence is the goal, but for a huge portion of Americans, financial lives are deeply interconnected with their families. A 2024 study from the Pew Research Center revealed a stunning statistic. Over half of all U.S. adults under the age of 34 receive regular or occasional financial support from their parents or other family members. This is a massive, invisible variable in the net worth conversation. When you compare yourself to a peer who seems to be saving aggressively and buying a home, you may not see the down payment gift from their parents or the fact that they are still on the family cell phone plan. On the flip side, many people are not receiving support, but providing it. They're helping parents with medical bills, supporting siblings through tough times, or sending money to relatives. These acts of love and obligation are a significant financial drag that standard financial advice almost never acknowledges. This dynamic becomes even more intense for the sandwich generation. Another report from Pew Research and SeniorLiving.org in 2024 found that 59% of Americans in their 50s are supporting both their own children and their aging parents in some capacity. Imagine trying to save for your own retirement while also helping pay for your child's college tuition and your mother's prescription drug costs. The financial squeeze is immense. This context is critical because it fundamentally changes the definition of financial progress. Your journey cannot be fairly compared to someone without these responsibilities. Acknowledging these financial drains isn't making an excuse. It's adding essential context to your own story. You have to factor them into your plan. The goal isn't to hit an arbitrary number seen on the internet. The goal is to make steady, sustainable progress within the beautiful, complex, and sometimes costly reality of your own life. Watch this. Let's imagine a paycheck for that median take-home pay of $4,500. First, rent gets paid. Let's say it's $2,200. The balance drops to $2,300. Then inflation invisibly shaves off its 2.9% for the month, about $110 in lost value, leaving the real worth at $2,190. Then you send $300 to help your mom with her bills. Now you're at $1,890, and you still haven't paid for food, utilities, or transportation. You can see how quickly the resources available for wealth building disappear. This is the reality for millions. Let's look at Carlos's story. Carlos is 37, a dedicated middle school teacher in Chicago. He and his spouse have a combined household income of $80,000 a year. They have 2 young children. They are doing everything right. They work hard, they're raising a family, but they feel like they're constantly treading water. Their goal, inspired by an article they read, is to reach a $200,000 net worth by the time Carlos turns 40. But the math just isn't working. Their rent is $2,200 a month. Food and utilities add another $800. Daycare for their 2 kids is a staggering $700 a month. On top of all that, Carlos's mother is retired and on a fixed income, so he sends her about $3,500 a year to help her make ends meet. When they tally it all up, their actual ability to save money is only about $6,000 per year. The $200,000 goal feels like a distant dream, and the struggle to get there creates a lot of stress and guilt. So Carlos decides to stop chasing the external benchmark and start analyzing his own reality. First, he calculates the inflation bite. He realizes that the 2.9% inflation rate is eroding the value of their small cash savings. Next, he lays out all their costs and sees with stark clarity that after their non-negotiable expenses, rent, food, childcare, and helping his mom, there is only a small sliver of their income left. He acknowledges that supporting his mother isn't an extra expense. It's a core part of his budget and his values. The outcome of this process is transformative. Carlos and his spouse decide to ditch the arbitrary $200,000 goal. Instead, they create a new benchmark based on their own life, saving and investing that $6,000 a year consistently. They start tracking their own progress month over month, celebrating their consistency rather than mourning their distance from an unrealistic ideal. The guilt vanishes, replaced by a focused, unified effort to control what they can actually control. Third, here's your personal framework for unstoppable, realistic progress. We've debunked the myths and exposed the hidden pressures. Now it's time to build your own plan. This isn't about complex spreadsheets or risky investments. It's about a simple, powerful three-step framework I call the net worth growth trifecta. It's designed to give you immediate control and build momentum. Step 1 is to calculate your real annual savings rate. The internet is filled with advice telling you to save 15%, 20%, or even 50% of your income. For most people, that's completely unattainable. The Bureau of Economic Analysis, or BEA, is projected to report for 2025 that the average American's personal savings rate is actually between 3.9% and 4.9% of their disposable income. So if you're saving 5% of your take-home pay, you're not failing, you're average. To find your rate, simply add up everything you saved and invested over the last year. Divide it by your total take-home pay for that year and multiply by 100. This number is your personal baseline. It's not good or bad. It's just your starting point. Don't judge it, just know it. This is the most important number in your financial life because it's the one you have the most direct control over. Step 2 of the trifecta is to optimize your cash. This is the easiest and fastest way to get a financial win, and it requires almost no effort. Billions of dollars are sitting in traditional savings accounts earning pathetic interest rates, sometimes as low as 0.01%. Meanwhile, high-yield savings accounts, or HYSAs, are offering dramatically higher returns. For example, as of December 2024, an online bank like Varo was offering up to 5% APY on savings, with other top accounts offering rates between 4.2% and 5%. Let's do the math. If you have a $10,000 emergency fund in a big bank savings account earning 0.1%, you'll make $10 in interest over a year. If you move that same $10,000 into a HYSA earning 5%, you'll make $500 in interest. That's an extra $490 of free money. It's the same cash, the same safety. These accounts are FDIC insured, but a vastly different outcome. This isn't about chasing small percentages. It's about claiming hundreds or even thousands of dollars that you are rightfully owed. This micro step of opening a new account and transferring your money can have a bigger impact on your net worth this year than trying to perfectly time the stock market. Let's check this off your action list. Calculate savings rate? Done. Optimize cash? In progress. Step 3 is to set your own finish line. Forget the influencer benchmark. Your financial journey is unique, so your goals must be too. Instead of a vague 10-year goal, I want you to build a personal progress tracker with 3 distinct time horizons. First, a short-term goal. What is one small, achievable net worth increase you can aim for in the next 3 months? Maybe it's just saving an extra $500 or finally moving your cash to that HYSA we just talked about. Second, a midterm goal. Where do you realistically want your net worth to be in 1 year? Base this on your savings rate and any raises or debt payoffs you anticipate. Third, a long-term goal. Set a 5-year target. This is far enough to be ambitious, but close enough to stay focused. Write these 3 goals down. This becomes your new scoreboard. You are no longer playing someone else's game. You are playing your own. You measure your progress against your last month, not against someone else's filtered Instagram post. This framework deliberately focuses on what you can control. Many people get paralyzed by trying to predict the stock market. You'll hear that the S&P 500 has an average annual return of about 10% over the long term, a figure confirmed by sources like Statista for 2024. While investing is a crucial part of long-term wealth building, that 10% is absolutely not guaranteed in any given year. The market can be flat or down for years at a time. You cannot control what the S&P 500 will do next year, but you can control your savings rate. You can control which savings account you use. You can control the personal goals you set. By focusing your energy on these controllable actions, you build sustainable habits and a resilient financial foundation, regardless of market volatility. Let's see how this works for Tanya. She's 45, an IT project manager in Atlanta, living with her partner and child. Their household salary is a comfortable $120,000 a year, and her current net worth is $160,000. Her goal is to hit $250,000 by age 50, but she feels completely stalled. Costs keep rising. Her mortgage is $3,200 a month. Expenses for their child run about $1,000, and their health insurance premiums are $700 a month. On top of that, she provides sporadic support to her nephew, totaling about $2,400 a year. She feels like she's fighting a losing battle against rising expenses and uncertain investment returns. So, she decides to implement the net worth growth trifecta. First, she calculates her household's actual savings rate. She's shocked to see it's just under 5% of their take-home pay, far below the expert advice she's read. But instead of feeling shame, she feels clarity. This is her real baseline. Second, she goes hunting for a better home for their cash savings. They have $30,000 sitting in a savings account tied to their checking, earning a meager 1.5%. After 20 minutes of research, she finds a high-yield savings account offering 5% APY. She opens the account online and transfers the money. This single action will earn their family an extra $1,050 in interest every year. It's an immediate, tangible win that makes her feel powerful. Finally, she builds their new progress tracker. She sets a 3-month goal to increase their net worth by $3,000, a 1-year goal to add $15,000, and a 5-year goal to reach her target of $250,000 based on their real numbers and the new higher interest income. For the first time in years, Tanya feels empowered. The quick win from switching savings accounts created momentum, and her new achievable benchmarks are based on her own life, not an internet should. She is now tracking her own steady improvement, and it feels fantastic. Pause and write down one micro action you'll take this week. Then post it here to stick with it. So, where do we go from here? Let's bring it all together. We've covered a lot of ground, dismantling long-held myths and replacing them with data-driven reality. The key takeaway is this: you are likely doing far better than you think. First, we established that most online net worth benchmarks are wildly inflated. The Federal Reserve's real numbers, like a median net worth of just $39,000 for those under 35, show that the financial journey for most Americans is a gradual climb, not a rocket ship. Second, we uncovered the invisible forces working against you: the steady erosion from inflation, the crushing weight of high living costs, and the unspoken financial obligations to family are real factors that impact your ability to save. Official data from sources like the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Pew Research proves that your path is unique, and that navigating these pressures is a sign of strength, not a failure. And third, we built an actionable framework to take back control, focusing on small personal actions like calculating your real savings rate, optimizing your savings account yield, and setting your own adjustable, time-based milestones is what drives meaningful and sustainable financial progress. Your journey forward starts today with 3 simple steps. First, tonight, calculate your own net worth and compare it to the real median for your age from the Federal Reserve data we discussed, not to a random internet meme. This gives you an honest, judgment-free baseline. Second, this week, assess your annual savings rate. And most importantly, move any emergency fund or cash cushion you have into a top-rate, high-yield savings account. This is the fastest way to get a tangible financial win and make your money work harder for you. Third, this weekend, set your own 3-month, 1-year, and 5-year realistic net worth goals. Factor in your real income, your real costs, and your family realities. This is your scoreboard now. Track only your own progress and make sure to celebrate every small move forward. If this video flipped how you see money and your own progress, subscribe for more myth-busting, data-driven guides designed for the real world. And please, share this episode with someone you know who is stuck on those impossible finance goals. You could help them find some real peace of mind. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute personal financial advice. All data and product rates reflect U.S. market conditions as of late 2024. All numbers cited are from official U.S. sources, including the Federal Reserve, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Pew Research Center, the U.S. Census Bureau, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and the FDIC. Always do your own research and consult a licensed financial advisor before making any financial decisions.